Otherwise, what we can also potentially do, I see Keelan is online. Keelan, would you mind if we ask you to swap just while we wait for Rose to connect with us?
Absolutely.
If we swap sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. Brilliant, guys. So it's a big honor for me to welcome Caoilfhionn van der Walt, all the way from Mauritius, tuning in today. She's the drive and the founder of Regan van Rooy, which is an international tax consultancy based out in Mauritius that serves clients all over the continent and all over the world to think about the right tax structures for their shareholders. She's one of the smartest legal professionals I've ever met. We're very privileged to have her speak today around kind of females in the profession. Keelan, we're very excited to hear what you have for us today.
Thanks, Lo. And it's been very exciting for me to think about what to discuss here, because I've done lots of webinars and presentations, and it's always been about technical stuff. And this is the first time I've been asked to talk about women in business in general. So what I thought would be helpful is to share my story and some key learnings from my side, and some key challenges I've come across in my career that has impacted my business journey. So I'm Irish, that's why I have this very strange name, although I do have a son called Lo, and obviously I'm Mrs. van der Walt, so I'm half South African. I'm an accountant, and my career, I basically only ever worked in 4 places: Arthur Andersen in London, Deloitte in London, Sasol in Johannesburg, and then I set up Regan van Rooy in 2016. And my time as a woman in business at those 3 wonderful firms, Andersen, Deloitte, and then Sasol, are what led me to set up my own firm in 2016, which was initially an all-women firm, and this year ceased to be an all-women firm, which was quite a big decision. So I wanted to discuss that whole transformation today. But first of all, I want to start by saying that I think it's obvious to everyone that this is the best time in history to have been a woman. And it is certainly the best time in business to be a woman. There is nothing that we cannot do. There are no doors that are closed to us, technically at least. And there is a lot of affirmative action to support women to get to senior leadership positions in business. Now, the reality is that women are still not in senior positions, even though there are more women than men in the lower level positions. So we're not quite achieving the equality of output in terms of women in business, but we certainly have no formal obstacles in our way. So I feel very privileged to live in a country and in a time in the world where, as a woman in business, I feel that I can do anything I want just as well as a man can. I don't know how old I am relative to the rest of you here. I assume I'm older than most. I'm 44. And when I started work, I saw a lot of what I think of as casual sexism. And that is something that I think has largely ended over the last couple of years with the Me Too campaign and other similar movements, which I think also makes it an exciting time to be a woman. And I certainly, as a youngster in London, and even in those wonderful firms, I was exposed to, you know, what I think of as casual sexism, day-to-day sexist language and behavior that I think is happening less and less today. So overall, I think great time to be a woman in the world and a great time to be a woman in business. In terms of my career, when I look back, I think about what I call the maternity plateau. Now, this is something that by no means happens to all women, but for many women who choose to become a parent, there can also be a choice to kind of plateau a bit in one's career. And that's something that I certainly did, partly through choice and partly through circumstance. And I want to spend some time talking about that today. So in the developed world, there are typically more female graduates than male in any business profession. So, for instance, I started as a graduate at Arthur Andersen in London. There was 80 people in my intake, pretty much split equally, men and women. There was slightly more women than men, but not a single woman from that intake became partner, whereas about over a third of the men became partner. So that is, in an anecdotal way, quite a powerful reflection of what happens in the corporate world, when essentially there are generally more lower level women than men, but far less senior women than men. So in the Big Four, and I'm an accountant, I'm not actually a lawyer law, although I work in tax, which is kind of very legalistic. But in the Big Four, typically there's about 52% women graduates, but only about 20% women partners. And in my view, it is a lot to do with the issue of parenting and how that impacts on a woman's career. So when I was I became a parent when I was at Sasol. I actually had 5 children in 5 years, which was pretty intense by anyone's level of thinking. And I took a deliberate decision to do 2 things. First of all, not to go to part-time, because I had seen many, many examples of women who had chosen to work part-time or reduced hours and ended up essentially working the same hours for less pay, or slightly less hours, but much less exciting work and less scope for betterment. So I was always keen that I wasn't going to take that part-time option, because to me, having seen from large corporates how it impacted women who wanted a part-time role, it meant that they had much lower quality work and were treated much less well. So I always intended to stay full-time. I was very lucky that I had a boss and a team that was supportive of flexible working. But I certainly made a conscious decision, not one that I necessarily made explicit to my boss and my team, but that I was not going to seek to progress my career for at least 5 years. It was essentially more or less 8 years from having my first child in 2011, that I think of now as the plateau stage of my career. And only after that, I had this, what I think of as a second wind, which actually led to me setting up Regan van Roy. I think this is a critical area for many women. So many women either choose not to have children, and interestingly enough, there is a very high level of senior women in business who have no children. And in politics, you might remember the famous Economist cover that had Angela Merkel and Theresa May when they were the leaders of Germany and the UK, respectively, with a cartoon of an empty crib. So there is a strong link between senior women in positions of power and women who choose not to become parents. But I see that when the split in terms of women coming into the workforce, even in technical areas, 50-50 alongside men, then it's maternity that turns it into less women continuing full-time and less women coming to partner level or other senior levels. So that is obviously very endemic in the corporate world, where there is a very strong presenteeism focus and a big focus on a corporate culture. I think that is less prevalent in startups. So I'm very interested to hear how it is in the companies that the founders on this call have set up. But having seen that from personal experience, first of all, how when women have children, end up being kind of given second tier career options and not given the opportunity for promotion. That was largely what led me to set up Regan van Roy in 2016. What I wanted to do was to tap into what I saw as the high number of highly skilled women who were able to get to the top of their field in the technical area of international tax consulting, but did not have attachments to the title and the salary and the size of their budget and the size of their team, but wanted to do good work in a safe environment with challenging with scope to grow, but without any of the politics or posturing involved. And I was very interested to see that there was a big interest in that from women. So we didn't intend to be all women when we set up, but it was a group of 5 women who got together initially to work under this banner. Interestingly enough, of the 5 senior women and 2, so kind of 5 partner level women and 2 senior manager level women, I was the only one who had children, which I think speaks to the previous point I made about the cost that having children, or certainly wanting to focus less on career in a corporate whilst having children or while having young children. I think that shows how that does impact one's career path. But yeah, so the reason that we wanted to set up Regan Van Roy was twofold. One, to tap into this pool of women who wanted quality work, not interested in politics or posturing. And secondly, to provide a way for women who had different requirements in their life and different priorities. I assumed mainly they would be children, but like I say, a lot of the women didn't have children, to work together in a collaborative way, where in the same way that if I'm a partner at PwC, I can say to one client, sorry, I can't help you on that today because I'm busy with this other client, that we would work together to support ourselves, to give our other priorities in life the same importance as another client would have. And my particular passion has always been supporting women to return to the workplace after maternity leave. I have seen time and time again women who take an extended period of maternity leave, they come back, they're less respected in the workforce, and they lose a lot of confidence. So therefore, they don't do maybe as good at work as they could. Then it becomes a vicious circle where they're kind of kept in a lower position, never reclaim their confidence, never then reach the senior levels. So that for me was a very personal driver in Regan Van Roy to provide a clear framework for women returning from maternity leave to still have a meaningful career with real development, while it being understood that either they weren't working full time or that they had other priorities that were just as important as their work. So I think that's I'm not sure how much time I have left, Lo. You might need to give me a bit of a steer, but that was one of the key points I wanted to make today. That I think it is important for everyone in business who is either a woman or working with women to be aware of the impact that maternity policies and maternity practices can have on people's career. And I think there is a real gap for support for women who have taken a period out of the workforce to be able to get back in. So many of those individuals are not given the support they need, and therefore what they maybe start by intending to be a 2-year maternity leave or even a 6-month maternity leave can mean to them never working at the same level for the rest of their lives. No, I'm not sure how long I've been speaking for, but I think, sorry, because I didn't take the time before we started.
You're doing perfectly well. We've got another minute or two. Let me see if I can find a question from the audience for you. I've just put a point up to ask if anyone has a question with regards to your career journey. But thank you very much for sharing all of that. I think your take is absolutely spot on in terms of this. This being a very exciting time for gender equality and for female founders and female professionals. It's really exciting.
Great, thanks, Lo.
Brilliant. Let me see, guys. Anyone with a question for C? Caoilfhionn, maybe I'd like, while we wait to see if we get one, I'd love to ask kind of like what exactly sparked that new breath of life you mentioned, that you got to start the new business. I think that's quite an exciting one to always think about, like, why do people start at the point where they do?
Yeah, well, so for me, it was seeing that I wanted to work at the top of my game, but I didn't want to work in an office from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening. So for me, it was largely driven by work-life balance and wanting flexibility because of my family. So that was how it started. And only afterwards did we start to look at, actually, it's not that we can do the same as other people, but with greater flexibility for us, we can actually do something that's better than what other people are doing out there. And maybe I can just touch on why we welcomed men to the fold this year. So we were an all women firm for 5 years, from 2016 until the beginning of this year. And then after we had a number of people move in and out, and then towards the end of last year, we realized we were all white women. And then we thought, okay, it's good to be pro women, but it is not good to be exclusive in any way. And we certainly were not comfortable with calling ourselves all anything if we were all one race. So that was when we decided to open our doors a bit more. And we now have 3 men in the team. And it's been very nice that the men are still very much in the minority, which I don't think bothers them. But we do think it was the right call for us, because I think that and this is something I think is interesting for a women in business discussion at all. In general, it is important to be supportive of women without being unsupportive of the other, i.e. of men. And that is always the danger with being focused on one group, that we don't want to be exclusive. And it's also important as a woman to ensure we don't replace the kind of old boys club with a new girls club.
That's well said. As well said, yeah, I think at the end of the day, a balanced organization in terms of different walks of life, different outlooks, makes a lot of sense. We started as three men back in the day, and at the moment we're, I think, just over half female in the team. And I must say, like, having a mix of different languages, races, genders, and different people from different walks of life and from all over the country in one organization just brings a lot of ideas and a lot of excitement to the table. I think this comment is spot on. A diverse team tends to be a higher performing team. I think you just have a broader amount of input and ideas from different kinds of people who think in different ways, which I think is quite healthy.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. I think that's super amazing. Christy's got a question here.
I see, yeah. And let me answer that, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't saying that. So I do not think it is necessary for a good mother, whatever that means, to have this kind of plateau or to take time out of work at all. I think that certain women choose to have children, and certain women choose that when they have children, they will not focus on their career. Depends on a variety of factors. In my view, in South Africa, it is easier to continue full speed ahead with your career because there's such good support, less so in Mauritius, where I am now. In my personal view, it also depends very much on if you're in a partnership, what type of role your partner has and who's kind of takes first priority there. I think that still it does fall on, it more often than not falls on the woman. And we've seen with COVID, the impact, there's been lots of studies on the impact of the working from home thing has been mainly felt by the women. Even where both parents are working, it's the woman who picks up the schoolwork and, the house cleaning and everything. But I certainly do not believe, to answer Christy's question, that it is necessary for a plateau to raise healthy children. That was my choice. And not at all a necessary choice or not at all everyone's choice. The point I wanted to make is that if you decide to take that plateau, there is not a lot of support in the corporate world to get back afterwards. And also, if you take that plateau, it can lead to a very exciting second wind if you manage to get the support to get there. But I think it is a segment of the workforce that people are missing, people who have ended up taking a maternity plateau, and helping them get back to the level they want to be at.
Brilliant. Caoilfhionn, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us and for being here today, taking the time from your busy schedule. Brilliant to hear your ideas, and yeah, so spot on. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, everybody. Looking forward to the rest.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll speak soon.
Hey, Lau here, one of the founders of Outsource CFO. If you enjoyed this video, make it official. Click subscribe.